Welcome to Live Courageously podcast show number 51. And I'm your host, John Duffy. And we're having some technical difficulties, and hopefully we're going to resolve them in a minute. So as that is being done on my guest side from Israel, in the meantime, I'm going to do a quick introduction, and hopefully he's going to pop on the show, or we'll call this as a preview, and then we will attempt to solve this technical problem. But anyway, today's show is very special and timely, as my guest, Weinreich, is coming to us live from Israel. And I say that hopefully as the technology just keeps glitching on us. But he's coming to us from Israel during a very dark moment in their history. And I think he's about to come on. Excellent. I think I see him. I think we're getting there. And so let me just give a quick intro to him, and then we're going to bring him on. I first met Ron in Hollywood at a screening of military veteran films that were put on by the LA Film School. And after the program, we talked for over an hour outside on a rainy, cold LA night. I know it happens. And I got to hear his background. And we became friends that night. He later invited me to a Shabbat at his apartment, and I got to meet him and his friends even further. And we stayed in touch over the years. And I last had lunch with Ron in Studio City this year when he re-invited me to Israel to visit and tour, and I put it on my bucket list for next year. And after the tragic, savage attacks in Israel on October 7th, I reached out to Ron and asked him to come on the show and share his experiences and his insights with us. So let me introduce our guest today, Ron Weinreich. And Ron is the director of MKA Israel Communications Program, lead, a high-performance executive coach. He's a unique face in the consulting and coaching landscape. He was born in Israel and raised in the United States, and he has both a love for training and develop leaders in the business world, as well as a profound excellence in the world of art, namely music. By the age of 20, Ron was leading soldiers in combat in the Israeli Defense Forces as a tank commander when he was injured in a war between Israel and Lebanon at the age of 20. He suffered a spinal cord injury in that incident, and after rehabilitating with unlikely speed, he studied business in Israel's premier Reichman University, graduated from the renowned Zell Entrepreneurship Program, and he led leadership workshops for the IDF and became a leading director in the U.S. all-volunteer nonprofit, where alongside his partners, over $42 million in grassroots donations were raised to fund devices for injured U.S. veterans within a two-year period. He also became a famous performing and recording artist in Israel. And over the last decade, Ron has been heavily involved in leading programs and coaching in the world's most demanding leadership program at Landmark Worldwide. He currently resides between Israel and Los Angeles and is spearheading a firm in Israel. Ron has spoken before thousands of people on the subject of communications, performance, leadership, and both in Israel and the United States, and is known for his pragmatic, inspiring style and warrior spirit. Shalom, greetings, brother. Thank you for coming on the show at this challenging time in your life, your family's life, and Israel's life. You got to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there's a little bit of echo on my side.
Let me just make sure if I could take care somehow.
How about that? How about now? Does that sound better? I think it sounds better to me.
I think we're all right.
I think we are. Well, we had a little tech issues there, but that's not surprising. So thank you for taking the time, man. I appreciate it that you're willing to jump on and share what's going on. So how are you doing? To start with that, how are you? How your family? How your friends? What just your immediate circle, and then of course we're going to go wider in the circle of your community.
Well, I'm doing all right. My family is doing well. I mean, well, everything is kind of relative these days. My family is safe, healthy. Everyone's in one piece. We have a few guys in our family who, who are my extended family who are in the reserves, and we wish them all the blessings and the safety in the world. And besides that, Thank God we're all okay. You know, everyone's trying to manage right now in Israel in this very, very odd situation to contribute whatever we can contribute to the war effort on the one hand. On the other hand, to deal with the, uh, I want to say, mental and spiritual brokenness. You know, there's been we took a really, really hard left hook to the chin out of nowhere. That you know, and the fact of the matter is that we're still kind of dazzled. You know, we still got the stars or the birds around our head. You know, and but parallel to that, you know, it's been 1 week since the catastrophe, since the atrocities occurred, and we finally been able to you know, get our footing. We've regained our footing. The military is organized, and the country is you know, on full blast, on full tilt. We're ready to go.
Well, I know it's being described as Israel's 9/11 times 10, because when you think about the amount of people, in a country of the size of Israel, when we suffered 9/11 in New York City, it was 2,977 people who were killed in that terrorist attack. And we're a country of over 300 plus million people. So in your country, it would be the equivalent, they say, of over 35,000 people being killed. So when and like you said, and it's only been a week, so it's hard to, I kind of think back to 9/11, how long it took for us to kind of get our bearings again and somehow deal with this unexpected, tragic terrorist attack. And so for you, it's a lot closer. So, I can't fully, obviously, it's different. And so I just, I think people need to understand how bad it is and how traumatic it is for the people of your country and Israel and the people in the world.
I don't think that there's anyone. Well, it's not. I'm sure that there are a few, but as in generally, I think there are very, very few people in this country today that don't have someone who was either killed or injured, either in their first or in their second degree. Okay, I mean, even myself, I have a good buddy who I went to boot camp with, and who was in my battalion in the military. He was one of the police officers who was securing that rave, that party, the infamous party where over 200 people were just massacred. And he also, in securing that party, he contended with the terrorists, and he didn't succeed. Obviously, the firepower was way beyond anything that anybody imagined. Yeah.
Well, you have a unique experience, and that's why I think, what you can share with us today, for those of us who are so distant from it and don't understand, the history. And I speak for myself too, never having been to Israel, you don't understand the reality, even on that level, even as somebody who had visited or not visited, right? But, you were, when you were young, you were in the IDF, and you were in a war situation previously. So if you could just share a little bit of your background, that kind of gives you a special, unique understanding, because your brothers and sisters were in the IDF and you fought with them. So maybe just share a little bit of that with us, Ron.
Yeah, so in a few sentences, I'd say that. So I was born in Israel and I was raised in the United States until in New York and New Jersey until I was about 15 years old, and then I moved back to Israel with my family. I went to high school, graduated, went to the military, became a tank commander in the IDF. Much of my service was, as much as I love tanks incredibly, most of my service, to tell you the truth, was as a foot soldier. Okay, because in the day-to-day warfare of Israel, when Israel isn't fighting countries usually. Most of our warfare is with dealing with the Palestinian population, and it doesn't really look good, and it's also not very effective to put the most powerful tank in the world that Israel possesses up against, a civilian population. It's A, not effective, B, looks really, really bad on television. And there's no shortage of looking bad on television with Israel. So we're always trying to mitigate what people will have to say and what the world will have to say, and to take as much, as least amount of flack as we possibly can. And that very naturally also to deal with the Palestinian population in the most humane possible way, because they're human beings. There's no question about it. And naturally, when militaries meet human beings, military is, it's a machine. Doesn't matter, by the way, if it's the military or if it's the DMV. The DMV is a machine also. Any giant bureaucracy, as soon as you put a person, in a uniform and with a badge, whether it's the DMV or police or firefighters or military, then their intricacies begin, because they're the policies and the efficiency of the organization, and we did everything in our power to be as on the one hand, so it's a very, very fine balance to, on the one hand, be able to secure your population when without a shadow of a doubt that there are evil insurgents and terrorists who are on the prowl, intentionally seeking to exploit your niceness and to exploit your morality, because that's where they're going to hit the touch. That's going to be their touchdown. That's where they're going to score the touchdown. That's going to be their grand slam, like right there, boom. It's going to be that soldier who they got the picture over a month or two that he's a sweetheart of the group. That's where that's gonna be the hole in the fence through which we will infiltrate. And on the one hand, you have to deal with human beings as human beings. On the other hand, you have to secure your people. And it's a very, very, very fine balance that I learned, in my own experience in the IDF, in a way which I'll never forget in my life. I on the one hand, I almost went to jail because I was that nice soldier one time. I almost went to jail because I didn't obey an order, because I didn't think it was very I didn't, I felt like it was unbalanced, and I was almost sent as court-martialed. I went to court on that, on disobeying an order. It wasn't anything bad, by the way. It was just checking people's papers on a really hot day, and I didn't want to do it. Huh. So I was court-martialed and punished for that. And part of my punishment was doing a lot of patrolling in the Palestinian territories. A lot of patrolling, 8-hour shifts, 8 hours on, 8 hours off, 8 hours on, 8 hours off, like that for 3 whole weeks. Okay, I was like a zombie, and in those shifts, in the middle of the night, one night, I caught two terrorists. My crew and I caught 2 terrorists with our own hands, and I just got, it was like a slap to my face, like, oh my God, look at that. I was a smart ass one day, and during my punishment, I realized like they could have easily killed me that day too, but my warriors had my back, and they caught them before I even saw it was coming my way. So it's a really, really tough reality that exists here, but that's
but that is so important. I think some of what you're saying, because for people, especially people who've never been in that situation, I'll call them privileged people or super privileged people who've never been in a situation where there's war, there's danger of war, or there's terrorism. It gives you a sense of not understanding on any level what reality is in your world. And like you said, even in your world, your humanity was such that you treated people humanely, and then you realized that there was also terrorists And you realize there's a distinction there, and I think sometimes that gets confused with people in America, Europe, all over the world, that they don't understand that, yeah, there's the Palestinian people, but then there's a terrorist organization, and they're not the same. They can combine, they can be work together, but there's a distinction, and terrorists are terrorists, and you've experienced it, I think, and people have to understand what that is. And you just saw it on October 7th, the worst savagery, brutality, I don't know, animal behavior of terrorists. And it just boggles the mind, and yet people don't even see it and can't understand it, even after it's done.
Yeah, well, I want to also distinguish, because when you say, JD, when you say people, it's not true that people don't distinguish it. It's if anything, it's mostly people on the West don't know how to distinguish it, because
Agreed.
and the fact of the matter is that, hey, if I look at my childhood growing up in the United States, I lived in Long Island in a big house, the beautiful pool, on like a 4-acre lot, beautiful trees. Went to one of the best public schools in New York. Had a beautiful front lawn. Rode my bike every day to my friends' houses. I had no clue in any of my being whatsoever of truly the existence of anything that is even remotely close to something called evil. Okay, it wasn't even on my radar. It's, I don't know. It's like if you told someone that come meet. I just bought a pet pterodactyl. It's what are you talking about? It's not even. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. We see it on the movies and stuff like that. We think it's cool, but we don't really think that it really exists. This concept for people in the West that there are human beings. Doesn't matter if it's Hamas or if it's Osama bin Laden or if it's ISIS or if it's whoever. Okay. That there are people, or by the way, or if it's drug dealers trying to peddle drugs, or traffic children, or traffic whatever, that there are human beings in the world that when they wake up in the morning, their agenda in life, their purpose in life, is to wreak havoc, cause chaos, death, suffering to other human beings. I mean, that's it. It's like when whoever's watching this, we probably wake up in the morning, and what our day looks like is, oh man, let me hit the snooze button. All right, I'll go. I'll leave the house. I'll go get myself some coffee. I'll go to the gym. I have a commitment to feeling good, to living a good life, to looking good, to doing something, good for other people. It's so natural in our way of being to think that way that we never question the alternative. And there, you bet your ass, there's an alternative, which is we're going to get up today and see how the hell we figure out the deaths of kids. We need to kill some kids. Let's see how we can kill as many kids as possible in the shortest amount of time. Hey guys, why don't we get together next week and devise a plan on how to do that? Let's do that. Let's have a conversation. These are real things that happen, and it's so foreign to us that it seems like it's something unfathomable. But here it is. It's like right here all the time. It's right under people's noses all the time. People that, by the way, that do know evil are people who, I don't know, God forbid, people who have encountered rape, like who were raped or have encountered pedophilia or things like that, in their lives. Then that's like in the West, like the closest that we get to the presence of evil. Like those people will say that they know what evil is, but evil is on the prowl all the time.
And if I mean, I think it's a distinction and not a distinction, but you're right. Most people don't know, like unless you grow up in areas like I grew up in a poor area. I saw drug dealers, I saw gangs, I saw people sick dogs on people and kill them right in front of me. I saw that. I saw that evil in human beings because that was the neighborhood I grew up in. And people do see that, but most of the people in America don't see that. Most people don't experience that, and Western world as well, like you said. And the other thing is they don't realize if it's a cartel, a drug cartel that's trafficking children or women or selling drugs, they'll use those people as tools, and they don't care if they get killed. They don't care anything about them. And then when you take that to the political world and you put that into the political world, and you have groups like ISIS or groups like Al Qaeda or Hamas, Hezbollah, etc., that's just another version of that level of evil taken into the political world. But those people have the same or maybe worse impulses that they don't care. They'll use their own people and kill them too, because there's no moral compass in those people, none whatsoever.
Well, yeah. Well, there's definitely not a moral compass by our morals. They have a different moral compass. They have a moral compass. It's just a different moral compass, you know. And there's one thing that I want to say about Hamas also, if we're on the subject, JD, that it could be said, and I may be very wrong about this. This is total speculation. It's an assertion of mine. Okay, that even if you or I were drug dealers, then we would be dealing drugs because we want to make money. And we don't give two damns about anybody. Everyone can go to hell, but we're just going to make our money and we're going to do our thing. If you think about it, there is no explicit seeking of intentionally ruining the lives of others. For example, I mean, I'll ruin someone's life, no problem, in order to get, to make my money, right? But with Hamas and these terrorists, it's the other way around. Money is not the thing. The thing is, we need to go murder people. Like that's the game we're playing. It's like we will intentionally, explicitly devise ways to destroy life and to take away life. And the money's a secondary thing.
And I know it's so hard to understand that on an emotional, intellectual level, right? Because it isn't part of the majority of the people of the world. How could you get there? How do you even get there? It's like it's unimaginable on so many levels, but yet it's so true. And I think that's one of the things, having you on and having you share this, because you see it up close and personal. You got a country that's surrounded by people who, at the end of the day, people don't believe them when they say it. But if I grew up in the ghetto, and if somebody said that they were going to try and kill somebody, I believed them. It wasn't just a idle, yeah, they're just talking. So, when terrorists tell you they want you to destroy and kill all the Jews and destroy Israel, it's not just words, man. It's just not words. It's reality. That's the truth. That is their truth. And they believe it and they act on it. And everybody in the West goes, that's just words. No, it's not. And if you never lived in an environment where somebody says something and then they do it, it's like, I'm going to kill that person, and then they kill them. You can't believe that that's the way it works, but that is the way it works.
Absolutely. Yep. And they're also very consistent with it. There's one thing. These guys are masters at their craft. It's not like they're new to the job. So they've been in this and very well invested in it for very, very many years. And it's not that they're just talking about it. They talk about it and they act on it, and they've been acting on it again and again and again and again. And now we're finally at the point, after the atrocities that our people here in Israel have undergone, which are the biggest, most catastrophic atrocities committed against the Jewish people and against Israel since the Holocaust. It is time for repercussions, and we can only hope that we will get the job done and be able to, rid this place of this termite problem that exists here. And just to be fair for anyone who's listening, when I say termite mound, I don't mean, lots of people get very, very, this is the edgiest subject, you know, anybody will get lit up from anything said on this. Okay. And a lot of times, just a few hours ago, I was on a big conference call, and someone was sharing that, you know, we need to kill these animals. And some other guy got really, really offended. A guy who was he had some, based on his last name, I could tell that he was Arab, and he got really, really upset and offended because he said, how dare you call, you know, Palestinians animals? And it had to be distinguished for him and for, you know, just to set the record straight that we're not saying that the Palestinians or Arabs are animals, are not human beings, right? But the termites or the animals that we're referring to, or the evil or the demons that we're referring to, are the perpetrators of the crimes, are Hamas. These are the people who are active in this organization called Hamas, who hundreds of them came over the border, and, you know, just, people say the word murdered, but murdered isn't the, it's slaughtered, it's massacred, it's executed. Whole families, you know, just went from house to house and executed whole families, tied kids up, doused them with gasoline, burned them alive. I have some friends who are volunteering in the clearing of the bodies of the corpses, and you know, they say you have people who are tied up and stabbed 20 times, 20 stabs. You know, it's like after the person's been tied up. You know, and we'll not even get into the whole issue of the 40 infants, beheaded infants, and all this. It is as gruesome as it gets. I was thinking yesterday to myself, what could I literally thought to myself yesterday, could it get any more gruesome? Could it? Like, you know, really, could it? And the best I could come up with was like, maybe if they'd eat them, you know, like cannibalism. Like that's the next level, you know. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't know how much crazier it can get.
Well, like you mentioned, you know, this is the worst since the Holocaust. And a couple months ago, I took a family who is involved in they got an organization rescuing children from sex traffickers. And I took them to the Auschwitz exhibition at the Reagan Library. And you got to see at that exhibition the horrors that happened, during the Holocaust there. And we went from room to room, and we got to see and listen and hear people speak about what had happened. And, you know, as we were going through that tour, it was like a private tour that I set up for them, and we had a chance to go through. And you thought, okay, you know, this was back in 1940s, right? This isn't something that, you know, like you said, how worse can it get? And then it does. And what just happened, you know, on many levels, just because it's a different level of brutality. And, you know, not to say you can compare them. They both, you know, are horrible. So, you know, just going through some of that. And like you said, it's a difficult subject because people don't realize that the people who conduct this, just like the Nazis who ran the concentration camps, were termites. That doesn't mean all the German people were. And that you're making that distinction. And that's reality. But you have to understand they are. You know, they're not just bad guys. You know, you can't give them some, you know, soft word to describe them. It's just not acceptable. They don't get no soft words. That's not who they are. You know, they need to be eliminated totally, because they're not even the interests of their own people. They're destroying their own people's future. That's what they're doing. Not only the other horrors that they're doing, they're destroying their own people's future.
They are. And, you know, and right now, when you asked me to, you know, I'd like to talk with you on this matter, given these times, then I thought it would be a great opportunity, because this is an opportunity, I think, where two things have to happen. First of all, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that many, many, many people saw already, that unbelievably breathtaking speech given by the mayor of New York City. You know, people are effed up. He said those 4 words: "We are not all right." You know, people here are really, really messed up. Okay. Um, my younger brother came into my house the other day. He's got a year and a half old daughter, my niece, who's the most beautiful little girl in the world, and he came in and he said, "Dude, I'm really I'm kind of ashamed to say this, but I think I'm really messed up." And I said, "What happened?" He said, Lenny, who's my niece, she she was holding her doll, she was holding a doll, and then she yelled or something, and she threw it harshly on the ground. And he said, and I just froze, and my heart started racing, and I was on my way into into like a panic attack. The sight of the doll, like the baby on the floor, being thrown on the floor, so, just sent me into. And he said, then she took the doll. I told her to pick it up, and she put it into a box where all the other dolls are all thrown in there. He's like, I couldn't get the pictures of the babies out of my head, and I can't sleep at night. And people just burst out crying, left and right, all over the place, because everyone's trying to mask the pain by sometimes doing things and contributing and helping and supporting is kind of like a defense mechanism to not have to deal with the brokenness that people feel, that everyone's just go 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 go, and when you have a moment where you stop, you lose it. So first of all, there are a lot of people in pain. That's the first thing. And many of our friends, your friends and my friends, many people that might be watching this, I mean, if you're watching this and you feel like you're messed up, it's because if there's anything that'll mess you up, if you got a chance to see any of those videos or any of those pictures, and this is the kind of stuff that'll mess you up. Okay, so just know that you have the legitimacy to be messed up. And if you are messed up, whatever that means, then you're probably normal, because it's kind of weird not to be hugely impacted by the stories and the pictures and everything that's been going on. Okay, so just give yourself some space and give yourself some grace, and allow, it's like getting hit by a bus and then trying to get up and say, I'm okay. No, it's okay to sit down and like catch your breath. So allow yourself to catch your breath. That's one thing. Okay.
And I think and I don't want to cut you off. Keep going, but and that will probably come back and forth for a period of time. It just you're not going to be okay for a long time. You may get okay for a little bit, but then it kind of reappears, because trauma has that. That's the way trauma works, and you have to accept that and understand that, and not be hard on yourself because you're not okay. So keep going, Ron.
Totally. Yeah. And just to write on what you said, JD, we'll work it out. Okay. We'll work it out as we go. It's like, this life is damn complicated, and especially in this neighborhood, and people go through stuff in life. And part of the burdens of being a human being is that we got to work this stuff out and get through it in one way or another. My dog doesn't have to deal with that. She doesn't have to work things out for herself as much as we do.
Very true.
But even then, by the way, some do, because we know sometimes dogs can also carry trauma with them and stuff like that. But
if they're abused, that's absolutely
yeah.
right.
Yep. So one important thing that was important for me to share is just to send that message of that that I don't even know how to say this that I hear you, okay? You're heard. You're gotten by so many people. Whatever you feel is across the board. It's around the world, and tens of millions of people that they just don't know how to express their feelings. They don't know how to say it. They might be afraid of being offended. They might be afraid of looking vulnerable, but people are really effed up right now. And if that's the way that you feel, I hear you. Okay. I hear you. It is as effed up can get. That's okay. We'll get through it. Handle it. Okay. Just you'll get it handled soon. Soon. That's the first thing. A second thing is that people ask me all the time, including you. I mean, this is how our conversation started, Duffy. That you said if there's any way to help or to support in any way. So I get that all the time. Okay, and there is a way for people to support, and it is. I can tell you that on the home front over here in Israel, the soldiers, the people, I mean, we're getting it handled. It's happening. We don't need any kind of, at the moment, there's no like reach out that we need some kind of equipment or that we need financial support or anything like that. That'll work itself out. The biggest thing these days in terms of support is grassroots community support from regular people in the street and on social media. Okay. At the moment, the governments of the world, of the Western world, are standing firmly beside Israel in unprecedented ways, which is truly incredible. Like really, like never before. And that is amazing. And we cannot tell you, when I'm not a fan of President Biden, okay? But when President Biden gave his speech, first of all, I had tears in my eyes, and I'm even feeling kind of choked up right now because I think it was one of the most beautiful and historic speeches that a president has given, I have to say. It was masterful, incredibly powerful. He then backed it up by sending 2 aircraft carriers over here to the region, which has never happened before. The United States, with all of its love and support to Israel, has never sent aircraft carriers over here. Okay, it is an unprecedented show of force and stand behind Israel. When people saw that, just so you know, that the citizens of Israel, when they saw that and when they heard that, it was as if someone breathed life into us to know that America has our back. It is incredible. And that kind of support from the leaders of the world is immense. However, it will begin to waver very soon because the Palestinians and those who fund them, who are Iran and Qatar, are part of the axis of evil, and they are masters of propaganda, disinformation, misinformation, fake news, and and of course shaming. Okay, shaming and boycotting. And Israel has not even gone into Gaza yet. Over the next few days, we will. And once Israel goes in, you will begin to see an unrelenting onslaught of fake news, demonization, anti-Semitic rhetoric, anti-Israel rhetoric. You will be bombarded, and it will mess around with your head and with your senses. And slowly but surely, the conversation will start tipping against Israel. Okay, and that's where we need people just like you and me and our families and our friends to not be intimidated by the shaming tactics, to not be intimidated by the moral what do you call it? The virtue signaling. When they say, how could you be okay, stand by Israel killing innocent children and all those things. Okay, which you will hear. You you're going to hear that stuff all day, every day, and you're either going to fold under the pressure, or you will stand and say, "It's horrible. We know, but we must shift the paradigm. It must be a new age where we take this actor, this actor of evil, away from the dinner table. We can't have Hamas, which is equivalent to ISIS, sitting at the dinner table anymore. We can't. No one can have dinner. Exactly. No one can have dinner when there is when they are at the table. Peace is not possible when they are at the table. It's just not. It's not in their best interest. They will make sure that no one can eat because that's their game. So we need to remove them from the table. Then a new paradigm will emerge.
And just to go on some of what you just said and those 2 points, in the West and among my and our friends who happen to be liberal, progressive, whatever on that side of the thing, and they don't realize what the sides are or that the sides are such that they are. But like you said, besides Hamas being backed by Iran and Qatar, they're also backed by Russia. They're backed by Communist China. They're backed by North Korea. That's the axis of evil that you're talking about. It's not a small axis. And at a certain point in life, you do have to take a side. Even if you don't want to, or you'd rather everybody just got along. But when people don't get along, you have to take a side. Just like in World War II, people had to take a side. And, the reality is there is two sides, unfortunately, and one side is evil. And if you can't wrap your mind around it, you need to take a look at it a lot harder because, like you said, they're not able to sit at the dinner table with you and have dinner when they're trying to figure out how to kill you at the dinner table. That's not how you have dinner together.
100%. 100%.
So I think people, obviously have gone through an education system in in Europe and in America that has blurred what's good and what's evil, or that there isn't even evil. Because I think if you go through our university systems, you may come away thinking there's no such thing as evil. Obviously, that's a distortion of reality. And unfortunately, I think young people need to reassess and start to think again about issues a lot deeper than they think about them so far.
What was JD for you in your good old days when you were on a different side of the game?
You mean when I was a communist leader? Yeah.
Right. And what was the thing that, because people always have a rational argument to why they're right, And so there were days where you had a rational argument, I think, to why you were right about being a communist. But then at some point, your eyes opened to oh, this is evil. Like, these people aren't interested in sitting at the table. They got something else, some other agenda that's running them. What was that thing for you that opened your eyes to it?
I mean, that's a great question, Ron. For me, what got me to and I think gets a lot of young people, but especially coming from my poor background, what got me to be in that point of view and going down that path was I wanted a better world. I wanted a world, a utopia. I wanted a world where people all got along. There was no poverty. There was no drugs. There was no all the evils that we saw in our lives, that they were going to be gone and that we were going to contribute to get rid of them. So that utopian dream was what the dream was. And so I kind of went on that path thinking that that's what we were about, was creating that utopian dream. And it took a couple or many experiences to kind of wake me up from that dream and realize the dream wasn't reality, and reality was a lot different than the dream. But I'll give you one example that was a kind of eye-opener. Was we worked with Cambodian students in New York who were going to school in New York City. And at the time, the Pol Pot regime, the communist regime of Cambodia, what they called the Khmer Rouge, was ruling Cambodia. And it was a brutal, we didn't see it as that. We thought they were communists creating a utopia in Cambodia. So they asked these Cambodian students, the communist government of Pol Pot asked these Cambodian students to come back to Cambodia to help with the revolution. So these were people we knew personally. They got on a plane, they went back to Cambodia, they got off the plane and they got shot and killed on the runway by the communists because they were bourgeois. So they were brought back to kill these students, Cambodian students who supported that revolution. And that to me was a holy shit, what the hell is this kind of moment? Who are these people? Who would do something like that? And it was just one moment. It wasn't the only one that did the transformation, but it was then me starting to think and me starting to read other information, not just the cult information that I was reading on my side. I started to read other points of view. And as I started to read other points of view that I had not read before, I started to have to reevaluate. And now I had to think and not just feel and not be emotional, but start to get intelligent about what is really going on and what is this really about. And it took a while. And at one point, I basically rejected it. And then 9/11, quite frankly, was the final point for me, because when 9/11 happened, being on the left, I supported all that terrorist groups. And so when 9/11 happened, I realized that I was on the wrong side politically for a lot of my life, and that I all of a sudden became what I called a born-again American. And I had to go back and say, this was all the things that I believed, and I was wrong. And the reasons I believed them maybe came from good intentions, but good intentions paved the road to hell. It has nothing to do with damn good intentions if the outcome is horrible. So I had to learn. I had to change. I had to criticize myself and realize that I had made some bad choices in life and had went down the wrong path, and it was time to do a course correction. And I did.
Amazing. It takes a big person to be able to, take a step back and actually reassess rather than automatically double down. Usually, people just double down instead of knowing when to. Oh, I'm about to bet the keys to my house. This is pretty damn stupid. I better not double down on this.
It's easier. It's easier to not admit that you were wrong. I mean, we all want to be right. We all want to think that we're right all the time, especially men, I think. But we all want to be right, and so to admit that you were wrong and to be willing to say it. Hey, I don't put the blame on anybody else. I made those choices. I was wrong, not somebody else. I was wrong, and it's not easy to do that. It's not easy. And keep doing it, because then you even now you move a little bit, you got different points of view, and you start to think you're right again about everything. Well, you're not. You got to be willing to question yourself and not be afraid to do that, no matter where you are in life. Having that courage is something. Luckily, I just feel blessed that I learned it, and I continue to challenge myself to say, well, what if I'm wrong now? What if this idea is wrong? To have the courage to keep asking that question and not be afraid.
Awesome.
But let me go a little further. We've got a little bit more time, and I want to, I don't know how much more time, but yeah, but I'm going to play. I saw your thing with Mayor Adams. I just wanted to comment on that because that was a powerful speech he gave. I think it was super 4 minutes. I saw it on your page. I'll share it below on this one. So if anyone hasn't seen it, they can watch it, because, as a New Yorker, as somebody who went through 9/11, I think we have a special, unique identification because of that. And he hit it hard. He hit it. That may be the best moment of his life. I don't always agree with him on a lot of things, but when somebody does something right, I go, damn, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he stepped up and did it. Tell us a little bit. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Ron, because I know, and because people don't understand, they stereotype people. So people who may look at you as, well, you're Israeli, you're in the IDF, the stereotypes of you, which you kind of talked a little bit in the beginning about you being maybe too nice and that kind of stuff. That breaks their vision of you, right? Because their vision is, well, no, you're all evil. You know, you're an evil Israeli. I remember you telling me back in the day when we were together that you were trying to put together a program and you attempted it and did some stuff to help bring medical care to Palestinian kids and provide an alternative to give them some medical care that they weren't able to get. And you tried to put that piece together. And that was something that impressed me so much because here I didn't know, you know, anybody who was in the IDF before I met you. And so to know somebody who'd been through that, was in a wheelchair, went through all that experiences in life, and still was somebody who had that love and compassion for the other, impressed the hell out of me. But I think that's kind of who you are and continue to be, which is why, you know, I'm always, you know, see you as my brother because of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I dedicated my life to causing, you know, peace and resolution and prosperity between all peoples of all colors and creeds and religions here in the Middle East. Why? Because why not? There's no reason why not.
Exactly.
I mean, there really isn't. I mean, well, there are a lot of reasons why not, but there are also many more reasons why so, right? And I mean, I have to say that even though I don't know if I said that here, but I suffered a spinal cord injury when I was 20 years old while I was leading my men in combat in Lebanon, and I have to say, you know, though I'm very proud of what I did and I don't have any regrets about it. The fact of the matter is that me being paralyzed at the age of 20 is a pretty stupid predicament to be in. It's just dumb, you know. I'm sorry. It's just like people might want to glorify it. People often do. You know, they glorify it. You fought for your people, and you know, you fought for freedom, and all of it's true. You know, but why should people have to do that? Like, why does that need to be a thing? You know, it's almost as dumb as I don't know, like if you were paralyzed in a car accident because you didn't put your seatbelt on. Well, that's stupid. Why didn't you put your seatbelt on? It's just, you know, to put on your stupid seatbelt. Why would you? So same thing for me. Now it completely altered the course of my life. You know, let's not even talk about the quality of my life, given, you know, it's not exactly an upgrade in the quality of life to find yourself with a spinal cord injury in many, many, many ways. Don't get me wrong, by the way, it's not a complaint because my quality of life, I truly believe, is about 100 times higher than most people on earth because I created my life that way. But there is no good reason why the people in this family or in this neighborhood can't sit together and work it out, okay, around the dinner table. Everyone here is part of this, you know, everyone here in the Middle East, in Israel and our neighbors and with the Palestinians, we're all here. No one's going anywhere. Okay, no one's being deported anywhere. No one's going anyplace. No one's going to murder the other few million. It's not going to happen. So then the bigger question is, well, shit, how can we cause peace, resolution, cooperation, brotherhood, and prosperity to live in this place? And like we said earlier, you know, we can all come and we can cook together and we could talk together and we can tell stories and we can build businesses together and we could do bridge building and we could mediate things and we could have sports together and we can raise money and we can help build and heal each other in all kinds of a gazillion different initiatives. But it all comes crashing down as soon as everyone's okay with, you know, with the serial murderer sitting at the table. And all of it, all of the initiatives, the humanitarian stuff, all of it goes out the window when those guys are around. And, yeah, when we met, I was just beginning to fundraise for an organization to help children with with spinal cord injuries on in the Palestinian territories, because I know what that's like, and I have a really great life and I have really great medical care, but they don't. So I thought to myself, maybe that could be a good way to contribute. Then COVID came around and all that kind of was put on hold. But those things must keep on going. They must keep existing. And I can tell you that the day that Hamas disappears from Gaza, okay, will be, and that a different kind of regime is installed that has integrity, you will see that the Israelis will be the first at the door with the bouquet of flowers and the bottle of wine, and the home and the housewarming gift to say, welcome. It's so great to have you. We want you over for dinner. You have to remember that all of these arch terrorists, all their families receive medical care, oncological care, cardiological care in Israeli hospitals. Gazans, when a citizen of Gaza has heart problems or needs cancer care, they come to Israel to receive treatment. Israel gives them their humanitarian aid. Israel gives them their gas, their electricity.
And most of the world, and like you said earlier, your second point about how you can support with social media and other things as it gets worse, most of the world doesn't understand that, or doesn't know that, or doesn't realize that they're being, the thing that you just said, that is so true. And people don't know that, it's because it's not out there in the media, it's not promoted, it's not shared. People don't get that reality. They don't understand it. And, I just watched, and I'm going to put it maybe on the bottom of my thing too. On Twitter, there's two guys who run a company, and I don't know what the company is, but they got like 100 employees. One is Palestinian, one is Israeli. And they just, right after this incident, they talked about them working together and what they have together. And exactly what you were just saying is that after this is over, and after the cancer of Hamas is cut out, that the people are still there. The people remain there. And if there's a way to move forward with that humanity, and that's what you want to do, and that's what the best impulse and the best people in our planet, wherever they come from, whatever ethnic group they come from, that's what makes the world better. That impulse. In Ireland, my parents came from Ireland. The IRA, the Protestants and the Catholics killed each other for so many damn years until the best impulse worked out and they were able to get past it and realize that they could do stuff together as opposed to trying to freaking kill each other. But you got to cut the cancer out, because the cancer and you can't ever do it while that's destroying the body. And that's what's destroying the Palestinians' body, and it's destroying the body of the Middle East, that particular cancer.
Yep. And just a funny anecdote. Well, it's not funny. It's how much time do we have, by the way?
As much as we want, right? Quite frankly, we're up to about an hour, but I can go as long as you can. I got another show in an hour from now, but I got time, man. Keep going. Don't worry. This is good. I love all the stuff you're saying, and I just think people need to hear it on every level, because the humanity in you and your love for people to create that bigger vision, and at the same time deal with the evil that's there, that they both coexist. You can get rid of evil and you can still care about people. It's not either or. It's not an either or proposition.
Yep. And I'll just say that also that one of the things that I'm concerned about sometimes is that people might watch an interview like this and they'll think, well, he's positional, he's Israeli, he was in the IDF. Oh, this is just like another kind of Israeli propaganda. I could totally see how this kind of thing can occur like some kind of Israeli propaganda, right? And I get that. I totally can see how that is. The only thing I could say about that is that the place where I stand, the commitment from which I come, is for the people of Gaza to be free, for them to be free, because at the moment they are under a regime that is not only, it's beyond oppressing them, it's using them as its shield. Okay, it's using them as its own shield in order to move their agenda forward. Just as an example from yesterday, so in preparation for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, to finally go into Gaza and to start the invasion, then the leaflets and text messages were sent to leaflets were dropped off over the whole northern third of Gaza, and text messages, okay, were sent, and phone calls were made to every cellular phone in Gaza, requesting that people evacuate the northern third of Gaza, okay, so that there isn't collateral damage, so it's minimized. And an exodus of people began to move from the northern area, southbound. And guess what Hamas did? They blocked the roads. They took every car that they saw heading southbound. They seized the keys to the car. They just blocked all the roads. They told people, go back into your homes. And they started moving all those people that were trying to flee the war zone back into the war zone. Why? Because it is their wet dream. It is the ultimate payoff for them, for an F-16 to drop a bomb on a building and kill as many Palestinian kids as possible. That's their dream in life. Because as soon as it happens, they're all walking around with cameras. They send those pictures off to the world, and that's how they win. That's how they win. So we just cannot be a part of that propaganda. You have to understand it. Israel will go to lengths and put its own soldiers and its own people at risk to not have to be in that position where we are killing, other people's children. It's horrendous. It's horrific.
Like you said, people will kind of, and you can see it, they'll look at this and say, this is Israeli propaganda, blah, blah, blah. But, the realities of the day, and I posted it on my Facebook page, I watched a video someone sent to me about Iraq and Mosul, and a group of people who were volunteers, a former Navy SEAL, and they went in doing humanitarian aid. And it was during the whole ISIS occupation of Mosul. Different situation, different terrorists, very similar reality. Like ISIS and Hamas are the same. But ISIS did the same thing. And these volunteers had to rescue these Iraqi people who were victims of ISIS and try and save their lives, because ISIS wanted to keep them, just like Hamas, to keep them so somebody could kill these people, these kids, and then use that for propaganda purposes. So that evil that's willing to do that to your own children. I think there's a quote, and you may remember, and I don't remember it, from Go to My Air, about, if their people would love their children as much, then you could find peace. And of course, for terrorist groups, they don't. They just don't.
Just to make that precise, I think Golda Meir's quote is that there will be peace when the Arabs, when they love their children more than they hate the Jews. Right.
And that's a very powerful quote. And, there's a movie out now about Go to My Air, which I haven't had a chance to see yet in the US. But that quote is so powerful because it's so true. And what it takes is, you're not going to get to that place unless you get, you don't have to love people who are different than you. You don't have the same thing in common. But when you really love your own people enough that you don't want them to die and you want a better life for them, then you put all your time and your activity to make that better life for the future for them, not to make it worse for them so you can get a political point, so you can prove that you're right, to show that your hatred is more important than anything else in the world. And that's kind of what we're seeing. And it's, but social media, we need to do education. Young people throughout the world need to realize, it's kind of like, I look at it, having been on both sides of a political equation. I kind of understand it a little deeper maybe than people who've only been on one side all their life, whatever that side is. It just gives me an understanding of why people feel the way they do, and they're emotionally driven. And I understand that, but I can have a conversation with anybody out of respect and say, look, take a look at this. Take a look at this other point of information. It may change you, it may not, but look at it. Don't be afraid to look at it. And that's what I think this conversation with you today is, that I hope people look at it, listen to it, and maybe open their heart, maybe just a little bit, and open their mind a little bit, and maybe just say, maybe I can rethink this a little bit deeper.
Amen. Amen. And for anyone, and thank you for the opportunity, Duffy, for allowing me to, I don't even want to say to speak. It's more like to just share, to share what's been going on. And for anyone who's been watching, thanks for your patience and for, sticking with us and for keeping an open mind. And, we come for peace. There is no greater desire that I have. That's why I do what I do in my life, is because I will fight tooth and nail in order for us to one day all sit around the dinner table safely, securely, well-dressed, well-fed, and to tell stories about life and to rediscover that we're all here for the same reason, for the same purpose, and we all worship the same God. And if there's someone that doesn't worship the God or anyone, that's fine also. He'll just have to bring the dessert.
And I can testify to that, because having shared Shabbat with you, that experience was such a diversity of people with different ideas and coming from different places, different backgrounds, but just, a brotherhood, a sisterhood, just love, fun, like I said, goofing on each other, where you got to bring the wine, whatever, all that stuff. That's what puts me and you in common. That's why I felt that night that me and my buddy Bob, I'm going to put up a quick picture if I can of us from another event, but Bob on the right there, and another Lou Simon. But we stayed out in the cold with you for about an hour and a half. Both of us got sick the next day, but it was one of those days I was like, that was worth getting sick over, because we had a chance to go so deep and just connect, man, on so many levels, just those human levels that, you just go, this is what it's really about. This is the world we want to create. And it's not the world that exists, but we can make our contributions to it in whatever way we can. And you doing it in all the ways that you've continued to do it throughout your life. So, I'm honored and blessed to know you and call you brother, man. Anytime you want to come back on, anytime we need to, do this conversation again, as many times as we need to about anything, we'll do it. And I look forward in the future to, I know you pushed me a bunch of times to come over, and that's still gonna happen. So, I'm gonna come visit so I can get a chance to spend time with you over there.
Love it. I love it. I love you. And thank you, my brother. Thanks for everyone who's watching.
Thank you, Ron, man. Be safe. Shalom. All my best, brother. And anything I can do, please reach out to me. God bless you, brother.
We will prevail.
Yes, you will. Yes, we will. Thank you, brother. Bye. Powerful program. I hope everybody gets a chance. I'm going to keep sharing this. I'm going to share it again next week. I have another guest who's also a writer who's in the IDF. I'm going to be bringing him on to have that conversation again. Didn't expect to do this. It wasn't my plan to have these conversations on this issue. I go with my instincts. I go with the people that have been put in my life to be able, they're always there for a reason, I believe. And Ron's been put in my life for a reason. Hope you take this. If it impacted you, please take it, share it, get people to listen, get people to open their heart, get people to open their mind, understand what's going on. It's going to be a really ugly world probably, and this is just my guess, for at least a couple of years as this gets to resolve itself out, both in Israel, in the Middle East, and throughout the world. But there's always hope. There's always the positive, and out of negative comes positive. Out of 9/11, which was a horrible tragedy for America, good came out of that as well. And hopefully we'll find a way to find the good, make a difference, and change the world for the better. So thank you for watching Live Courageously. Thank you for watching the show with my good brother, Ron. And please, like I said, share it. And until I see you, I'm going to jump on in another half hour to do another show with a Marine Corps buddy who has an interesting story as well. So see you in probably a half hour on another show. Take care. Best.